Sailors' imaginations are always too rich. It's not their fault. Long time at sea. They are bored, tired, and within sight. Only the endless blue ocean. However, boredom has become a breeding ground for creating legends. Also let each water. The hand has become a storyteller after countless midnight shifts. No old sailor. I've never seen anything unexplained. Distant point of light, spherical objects in the sky, or strange creatures traveling through the water. I hear these stories a lot, but in 9 years of sailing, I have never had a story of my own. Until 2 in the morning, I finally got to him. There wasn't enough coffee. I'm on a ship called the Golden Mollies, on duty on the freighter. But this ship has nothing to do with the word gold. He's a rundown bulk carrier, nearly 30 years of service, suffering from sea salt erosion. At that time, we were fully loaded with 35,000 tons of lung metal loaded in Peru. It was September. A storm is brewing in the Solomon Sea, Zhangshidong Mobile, advancing towards the South Pacific. This is not a hurricane, it's just a regular tropical storm. However, passing ships reported that this storm, and there was a 35-foot wave when our crew learned of the approaching storm. All silent. At dinner, the only thing in the dining room is the sound of silverware hitting plates. No conversation. No one even said, "Pass the ketchup." It's a moment for us to reassess our lives. A warning is written in big black on the whiteboard in the restaurant. Bad weather. Please ensure that your room items are secured. Don't go on deck. Don't go on deck. It's to remind crew members who want to smoke. Deck hunting is one of my jobs. That night, I was in the cockpit as a chopper. Change shifts every 4 hours. I have to walk the hull when changing shifts. Make sure everything is safe. Welcome the arrival of the storm. 2 a.m. Johnny, take my place. One of the luckiest things about this job, he can make you, and those you originally, people who would never want to make friends, become friends. Johnny is a 62-year-old Filipino sailor, always with a smile, and like it before I grab it. Eat up all the delicious cereal. John, come over carefully, holding a bowl of cereal. I asked, "Did you leave me cookie chips?" "There are about 2 more boxes in the pantry." He smiled back. I responded with satisfaction. I recently switched from tobacco to sweets. I have to go around first. Johnny turned around and looked out the window. It's like a light show. We stand in silence, watching the distant purple lightning strike towards the sea. I have to go quickly. I am afraid that it will rain heavily soon. I put on an orange raincoat, walk from the right door to the deck. Tropical Pacific wind. It's my favorite part of these routes. But now the wind has become icy cold, at least for my skin. I tightened my shoulders against the cold. down the metal staircase. I should have checked a few things later. Depth shift in the middle of the ship. Gotta make sure all the furniture on the cargo doors is secure. However, except for that flash of lightning, it is difficult for me to concentrate on other matters. Every time the lightning strikes, the world is illuminated by purple light. I will stop, slightly shocked that there was no thunder in the wind. The only sound, it's the never-ending hum of a diesel engine. The warehouses are firmly fixed. These are always fine. The depth gauge has also been chained. The ladder was supposed to be tying a knot, secure to the railing. But when I bent down to fix it, torrential rain pours down. The rain hit me hard, fall on the hat of the raincoat. I decided to leave the ladder alone, prepare to avoid this bad weather. Go get some cereal. I stand by the railing. The sea begins to present a storm. The coming look. The wind blows the rain harder, swept in. But I didn't cover my eyes. Instead, I opened my eyes wide. There was an unspeakable fear, because it's only when there's a flash of lightning I can see it clearly. But that was enough. There is something beneath the waves, a mass of moving objects. It's about 100 yards from the left string railing and synchronized with the ship's speed. I kept staring at him, expect him to disappear or suddenly become logical. But the more I looked at it, the more uneasy I became, and I blinked, wiped his face, made those unbelievable, what people with their own eyes often do. He's too big, hundreds of feet long, can't be a whale, not to mention he's moving too fast, unusually stable speed. There was a thunder. I dropped the flashlight. He rolled quickly on the slippery deck, falls straight into the sea, disappears without a trace upon contact with the water. I sort of choked up and started running to the cockpit. I ran up the stairs and slammed open the cab door. Johnny, you have to come and see this. I need to know if I'm crazy. What's wrong? There's something in the water. He picked May. Stand up as we sail. According to the regulations, the cab cannot be controlled, but our captain doesn't care about sea rules. There's nothing to worry about bumping into, even if we hit a big wave, and no time to steer this slow, cumbersome ship. Avoid being overturned by waves. Okay, I'll take a look, but hurry up. We both stomped on the metal stairs, almost trotted to the deck. Right there. That dark shadow is exactly where I saw it last time. Johnny squinted. His eyes. He's old. Eyes are soaked. I realized he might not be able to see the bar, something beyond the pole, and I turned to look at him. I thought I would see him with a smirk on his face, but unexpectedly, his face has turned pale. He opened his mouth wide, staring blankly at the water. It's raining harder and harder, and the lightning bolts are getting longer and longer. Black sand, Johnny whispered, eyes still fixed on the water. What was it? I rarely see him without a smile. I jumped on the spot, feeling both cold and anxious. Suddenly, Johnny stretched out his finger, motioned me to follow his gaze. I looked back. I saw that the shadow was slowing down. It seems to pass through the back of the boat. We have to go, Johnny said, and I cried out. And it stands for, where else to go? Johnny didn't answer him. Start trotting back to the cockpit. We have to turn off the radar broadcast, he shouted. Just then, a violent impact on the bow of the ship. The whole ship shook violently. We both fell, until I felt my stomach sink, realizing that due to the loss of gravity, we've hit a big wave. Bow down. We are sinking fast into the trough of the waves. Johnny and I rolled off the deck. I barely grabbed the railing, but Johnny kept rolling. The boat is leveling off at the bottom of the trough. I suddenly no longer had to cling to the railing, but soon there will be the same big waves as before. I shouted Johnny's name. There was a whisper in the distance, and then I saw him. The ladder hangs overboard, still fixed to the railing. Johnny grabs a step as the ladder is hung on the side of the boat. I ran to where he was. Get down and reach out. But he didn't respond. I know if there's another wave, I'm dead. I wasn't ready. Did not do any defense. Ben just wanted to save Johnny first. His eyes are crooked. The lens shattered and hit his cheek. Blood trickled down his chin. Hurry up and give me your hand, I called out, and he looked a little hesitant, but eventually complied, and I pulled him up, pull over the railing, but as soon as he fell, he covered his legs, screaming in pain. I think my leg is broken. If we wait for the stretcher, we're dead. I went back to Johnny and bit my lip and nodded. I put my arm around his shoulder. He limped towards the cockpit. That wave was strong enough to set off a muster alarm. The entire crew gathered in the dining room, assess ships and their own potential damage. I worked with some engineers, carried Johnny to his room. We put him on the bed, try to keep his legs fixed, but it's a rundown ship. Even if we carry, gold companies don't pay to have doctors on board. The wound I helped Johnny simply treat, as simple as a bottle of brandy. I was there for him. Another engineer went back and took his place. Thomas stayed. He's second only to Johnny on the boat, my favorite person. We're all from the American Midwest, as two sailors who grew up inland, resonated with each other. He's a good kid, friendly to everyone. He was also the youngest member of the ship, only 22 years old. In this aging industry, to have a young and smart guy like Thomas, it's rare. For the next hour, most of the crew came to see Johnny's condition, but as the weather got worse, everyone stays in their rooms and doesn't go out anymore. After Thomas also left, the room was quiet for several minutes. I'm sitting in a milk crate by his bed. Hold a steam pipe tightly, so as not to slip when the boat is bumped by the waves. That wave just now, and the adrenaline from Johnny's injury, almost made me forget about us. What you see in the water. I handed him another sip of brandy, then asked, "Now you should tell me, what the hell is that out there?" Johnny stared at the ceiling in silence for a moment, then said slowly, "There was a ship 20 years ago. The route is similar to ours now, silent in a storm. But the last message his captain sent was, they were being followed by something. When people ask what it is, he said it was a black shark, something black. It's hundreds of feet below the surface, staring at them. I've heard a lot about the high seas, legends of weird things. I can't tell if I've heard of this for a while, but it sounds familiar." So he said, "But it's just a legend." He slowly shook his head, with a somewhat sad expression. "I have a cousin, keep running a fixed route, almost exactly the same route as that ship. It's not that different from the one we're running now. Load the same frame every month, and return on empty ship. One day a storm is approaching." He was standing on the stern deck with the crew, looking at something that follows them in the distance. He is not a superstitious man, joking with his wife on a satellite phone, said it was a black shark. But that was the last time he spoke to his family. No one ever heard anything from that ship again. "The ship sank?" I asked. "That's one of them, a Panamanian cargo ship that has only sailed for 3 years. A brand new ship, but was silenced in a small tropical storm. Any ship that has ever seen a black veil, as long as the crew does report a few days later. These ships all sank. I had to hold on to the edge of the bed. Live by yourself. Johnny's trash can is leaning with the boat, rolling across the floor. But there is one exception. The lights suddenly went out. The weak yellow emergency light came on. I felt my heart pounding in my chest every 10 seconds. A huge wave hits the bow, ear-piercing echoes throughout the hull. I had that thing in my head, lurking just below the surface, ready to drag us to the bottom of the deep sea. How do they do it? How did you escape? That's a fishing boat, but not a boat. It's 250 feet long, 10,000 tons of storage space. It's a monster in a fishing boat. One day they saw the black veil. Not a single person on the ship believed the legend. They know the stories. I feel like I'm dead, so I tried my best to survive. They destroyed radar and radio. Throw the emergency locator beacon into the sea. Even released lifeboats, disguised as them on the boat. Make the black sharks think they've given up the big boat. They disguised themselves as a ghost ship. 2 weeks at sea. Finally arrived at the port alive. so I had to commit an international felony to save myself. So even if we can land safely, go to jail, I said with a wry smile. I know, but it's worth a try. Otherwise, this piece of metal waste will become our tombstone. When he mentioned the tombstone, another big wave hits. Throw me against the wall. Johnny clenched his teeth and begged. Try to steady yourself. He gasped for breath. Go on, let alone bring it up. The lights are out. Maybe they won't catch you at all. I stomped my feet uneasily. This thing, he will silence the ship. Is there any reason? Is there an explanation in the legend? Johnny pursed his lips, swallowed. Yes, all the sightings happened around here, South Pacific, not far from Nemo Point. If you haven't heard of Nemo Point, it's Earth, the farthest point from land. Also 1,670 miles from the nearest land. The exact location is somewhere in the Southwest Pacific, although there is no actual logo. But it's really the end of the world. There are no routes near Nemo Point. There was no fishing. If you are there, then it's just you and the endless deep blue sea. At least that's what sailors always thought. Why Nemo Point? He led the boat there, then wait for the sailor to drown. But those sailors will come back. There have been reports that missing sailor appeared in their original port, but something controlled them to some creature, using their bodies as hosts. Horror stories are told around the campfire, because that environment is already terrifying. Dark woods. A thin layer of tent cloth separates you from the world. Everything amplifies the fear, but here it is, this doomed ship, miles away from any land. Johnny's story hit the horror story by the campfire. Nerves that can never be reached. I started sweating nervously. I stood up to leave. Johnny grabbed my hand. Do what you think is right, but you have to decide quickly. We don't have much time. I left his room, standing in a dark hallway. I just got my turn on the cab this afternoon. The captain will also be present, overseeing us through the storm. I have to destroy the radio inside. But the other things that Johnny mentioned, I must act now. I came to the computer room. That's where we keep our rain gear. I changed into a raincoat. The crew can recognize it at a glance. I'm wearing an orange coat, but put on this forest green raincoat. In the darkness and the rain, I'm invisible. I stopped before I left. There's a fire axe on top of a roll of hose. I grabbed him and rushed into the rain outside. I walked up the outer staircase on the side of the bridge. Run up quickly. The wind and waves are fierce. I kept getting banged against the railing. Climb very slowly. When I reached the platform facing the cab window, I saw the captain and his second husband inside. I squat down quickly, but soon realized I didn't have to. Such heavy rain, they can't see anything outside at all. emergency positioning equipment fixed to our lifeboat. This device is designed to be carried when abandoning a ship. It is convenient for rescue personnel to find our exact location. Our lifeboats are not inflatable valves. It's not a paddle boat. It's a big cylindrical chamber, launched through the stern chute. I removed the emergency locator device from the wall, throw it into the sea. So I made a plan. Turn off radar, sabotage radio equipment, and releasing the lifeboats will attract attention. But I decided to start with the radar. When they got out of the cab, when inspecting a radar antenna, I took the opportunity to go in and destroy the radio equipment. And while they are busy engaging, when figuring out what's wrong with the radio, I'm going to release the lifeboat. The plan seems simple. I climbed the ladder to the top of the cab. Radar antennas are robust, but the fire department is better. I quickly cut the radar off the pedestal and then zipped down the ladder. Lost the radar. We're sailing blind at sea. The captain and his second husband rushed out of the cockpit immediately. See what happened? I took the opportunity to slip into the cockpit. A dozen slashes with a fire axe. It completely paralyzes the entire cab. Sparks are flying on the control panel. Cheap radios smashed to smithereens. Now there are only lifeboats left. I ran down the steps, and we rounded the corner to the lifeboat. I hold up my fire axe. I was going to cut it directly. Broken rope, instead of untying them or pulling the starter rope. But just as I was about to swing the axe, a silhouette caught my eye. Thomas was staring at me in horror. "Jack, is that you?" he asked, trembling. I put the axe down slowly. No ash chop. Thomas is half-length from the path to the boat. The tail door of the cabin sticks out. He was holding a marine satellite phone. I frowned, and he was like someone who did something wrong. He looked very flustered. "I'm just trying to find a sign here. Give my dad a call. This storm is scaring me a bit." He pointed to the satellite phone and said, he came to his senses. "Point at me. What are you doing with that?" We both heard a shout from outside the cockpit. Suddenly the siren started going off. No time to explain. If I don't release the lifeboat, we might all die. And he took a step towards me. Doubt to Jack. "Your statement is illogical. That's why I say I don't have time to explain." The people around me started to get busy. Anytime someone will find me with an axe in my hand, at that time, I'm sure I'll be bound with my mouth and hands by the crew. When I raised my axe again to cut the rope, Thomas lunged at me. "We might need that lifeboat." "Jack, what the hell are you doing?" He struggled and shouted, and I swept his leg open. He fell hard on the deck. "Thomas, listen to me." But then he opens his mouth to scream. I didn't know what I was doing. There was a voice in the middle of the uproar. just trying to shut him up. That was all. The axe drew out of my hand, cut towards his mouth. I didn't expect this to be the death blow, but fire axes are sharp and heavy. The blade cut across his face like butter. Crash on deck. Thomas still stare at me. Axe blade embedded in his mouth where it should be. I can't get that image out of my mind. I turned and threw the axe into the sea. Looking back at Thomas, I threw up on the railing. His eyes were dead. The blade must have penetrated his spinal cord. I have to get rid of his body. The rain will wash away the blood. He is not heavy. I picked him up, gently threw his body over the railing. Wind and rain. I didn't even hear the splash of his fall into the sea before being seen. I quickly ducked into the cockpit. I took off my green raincoat. I replaced it with the usual one and went to the restaurant. The rest of the crew was gathered there in a panic. Fortunately, I wasn't the last one to arrive. A look of suspicion. It is likely to fall on the late one, on the poor guy. When the captain and his father barged in, we still have some crew members who haven't arrived yet. Realizing our strength, the captain is holding a pistol. Everyone straightened their backs. Someone sabotaged the ship. The captain came slowly. The boots echoed on the linoleum floor. So let's roll call. Captain, it may have been in our left string for the past 2 days. Something that follows. About everyone's eyes turned to the person who happened. It's Lewis, too. The crew began to whisper. Quiet. What are you talking about? Captain's crane rode. Lewis's upper lip and forehead were dripping with sweat. It looks like he's trying to hold back his shaking. I didn't want to scare anybody. I don't want to believe it either. But while on duty, I saw a dark, huge object swim underwater. I hear some people whispering about black sand. Others looked terrified. The others narrowed their eyes in confusion. The captain asked, with a smile, "What does this have to do with someone destroying the cockpit? We've lost everything but the compass. Don't you see?" He yelled into the room. "Who hasn't arrived yet?" The crew looked at each other before Thomas arrived. The chief engineer suddenly said, "Hear this name. I think of Thomas again, staring at me." The captain pointed to check his room. At the same time, "Let's find out about those rumors." I watched Louis nervously swallow his saliva. We followed the captain, quietly walking to the stern splint. The rain is still pouring violently outside. Turn on the lights, and the captain shouts. Several crew members went to the deck. Adjust the searchlight mounted on the stern rail. They turned the lights on to the max. Begin to sweep beams of light across the sea. 30 seconds have passed. Everyone continued to search without a word. Another minute passed. It's too dark. The water's too cloudy. Can't see anything. The captain looked east at the weather. then wait until dawn. The crew began to move inside the ship, but the captain shouted again to stay outside. Write down an hour. We stood silently in the pouring rain. We are cold and wet, tired like a dead dog, but you have to be tense and alert to avoid falling swayed by the waves until the sun finally rises. It feels like a century has passed. The sea turned from black to 1,000 grays. We can see more and more clearly. Suddenly, one of the searchlight crew members raised his hand, point far away. He didn't yell or make a sound. We remained silent, squeezed together. I wanted to see where he was pointing. Not far from the left side of the boat, a long black shadow, like I saw earlier tonight. The captain walks to the railing. We all stared at him in silence. No one dares to speak. He is just like the first time I saw him. We hope that the dark shadow below the water's surface can suddenly change, clear, or simply disappear. But we weren't so lucky. Actually, when that behemoth started to surface, we all gasped. God, he's floating, Lewis said. He breaks through the water. White foam splashed from his sides. Finally stopped. The crew began to smile and laugh aloud. I can't help but laugh. That shadow was a submarine. At least it looks like a submarine. All the time, we picture sea monsters and aliens. But this moment, we found that he seemed to be man-made. However, this relief is only for a moment. We fall silent again, because we noticed that he didn't. Every dive in Cambridge, the classic anomaly protruding from the top of the boat has disappeared. It's a full tube, unmarked, no ship number, nothing. And then we all backed off, because we saw him shining, glowing black. Still, he's not like any submarine I've ever seen. The crew began to scream in horror. In the chaos, I grabbed Louis, whispered, I ruined Cambridge. Lifeboat activated. Johnny told me the only one. The story of the ship that escaped this thing. I've done everything we can. Louis stared at me in disbelief. What did you do? The fishing boat you may not have heard of. But once a ship managed to escape the Black Veil, they destroyed the radar, cut off communication. No, you idiot. The only crew member who managed to escape the Black Shark abandoned ship into a lifeboat and sent a distress signal to the military. You hurt us. We are dead. Who told you to destroy this ship? Louis, shake my hand. I didn't answer him. I turned around and started running towards Johnny's room. I slammed open the door. At first I thought he wasn't in the bedroom. It looks empty. But when I got closer, I noticed a fishy smell. That's the smell of organic iron. Johnny on the bloody bed. But he's empty. Only his skin remains. His back was completely broken. Something seemed to be coming out of him violently, leaving behind his deformed body. His eyelids and cheeks, hollow as a Halloween mask, like something wearing his human skin. Then his words came to mind again. He once told me the truth about the Black Murder. The sailors he killed come back with some kind of living thing in it, and he is one of them. I heard him talk about wrecking ships, the lie to start the lifeboat, and now we're doomed. I send this message, hope the satellite can pick it up. Maybe there's a satellite. We'll enter coverage in a short time, enough to tell my story from this damn ship. As I walked back to the stern deck, most of the crew is still there. However, the submarine has sunk again. The captain shook the compass. We're sailing backwards. The boat is broken. We are sailing southeast, so he says. But I don't need to hear his course. Just know where we're headed. We're headed straight for Nemo Point.